gliders in a long time. Seen my favorite bike riders in a long time. You and that woman better get out and get on those bikes. Oh, we haven't come by.
It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the Poquoson City School Board meeting to order. And first part of this order is to welcome Kelly Jasinski, our new school board rep to the board. She'll be with us for a year. We're looking forward to working with her. Kelly, you can get us started, please.
Okay. Mary Marsh will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. She's a senior at Poquoson High School and is or has been involved in the jazz choir, forensics, school musicals, and the color guard. She is actively involved in various community service organizations, including international missions work and the Victory Christian Center. Mary is planning to attend a 4-year college and pursue a career in the ministry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brandon Evanson will give an inspirational reading entitled The Art of Courage. He is a senior at Poquoson High School and has been involved for 3 years with public speaking. During his junior year, he was a teacher's aide for Miss Osmond's AP biology class. Brandon was also involved in the play American Idol. He is an advanced diploma student and is taking 2 AP classes this year and is planning to go to college, then join the Air Force as a medical officer.
Ladies and gentlemen of the school board, I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say that we live in troubled times. Our nation is in debt, our economy is inflated, and there is turmoil in the Middle East. And we have recently mourned the lives lost in the unfortunate 9/11 tragedy. So it is in hopes of rallying all of our spirits and to remind everyone of how strong we truly are that I represent to you now the art of courage. The art of courage makes mountaintop men and women out of ordinary individuals. It is an essential ingredient in persons of outstanding achievement. In the words of Sidney Smith, a great ideal of talent is lost for want of little courage. The act of courage causes some men and women to keep trying where others have failed, and in rising above failure to accomplish mighty deeds. Courage is the human attribute that counts most, wrote the famous poet Robert Frost. It makes individuals venture into the unknown. It stretches their horizons. It enlarges their visions. Courage magnifies their capabilities. The greatest test of courage on earth is to bear defeat without loss of heart. Persons of courage rise to the challenge, dare to try the untried, and carry on in spite of defeat because they know it is only a temporary setback. Persons of courage take over where others stop, and they go on to win the important battles in sports, education, science, business, and life. Thank you.
Next item is student presentation.
Students from Jazz Choir, In the Pocket, and from Sound Station have joined tonight to present Sing Me to Heaven by Daniel Gothrop. The Jazz Choir has been awarded first runner-up at the Hanover Invitational 2 years in a row and performs regularly around the community. The group was handpicked to open last year's Relay for Life event in York County. Sound Station has been awarded first runner-up at the Hanover Show Choir Invitational and the Hampton Roads Show Choir Invitational for the past 2 years. The group contains some members who helped win an award for Best Backstage Crew 3 years in a row. Combined, the group was selected by News Channel 3 to be recorded for a special December 24th broadcast for the past 2 years. They were awarded first runner-up in the mixed choir division at the Myrtle Beach Festival Invitational last year.
Is there any additions or modifications to the agenda?
No, there are none tonight.
And we'll move down to recognitions. Dr. Parrish.
I'll have to say, it's a very tough act to follow. You all were truly wonderful. Thank you for that. Great way to start the school year off here in a September board meeting. What I'd like to do now is invite Mr. Charlie French to come forward. This is a bittersweet evening for us because we're saying goodbye to Mr. French in a sense because he's retired from his position. He has served as the military liaison for Fort Monroe for the past 10 years, and prior to that was a school board member as well. But as a military liaison, he's really done tremendous work on behalf of military children throughout our community and throughout the peninsula as well. He helped assist families as they were making decisions about schools and school divisions, and if they had questions or concerns, he'd often act as a liaison between the schools and between those families. He also helped to work to inform both me and other staff members and the school board members of issues that were important to military families, and we always appreciated that input as well. He assisted in us establishing at Poquoson High School the S2S, or student-to-student program, which has been very successful for us in the past years as we welcome military children into our community and into our high school. He's also been of great assistance in helping to identify grants that we've been able to apply through the military, through different portions of the military and the government. He's helped to facilitate and plan meetings that we've engaged in, whether it's superintendents, school board chairs, other school staff members with the military leadership throughout Hampton Roads, again, so that we have that connection and can better serve the needs of our military families. What I would say overall, Charlie, is that you've truly made a difference for children throughout our community, throughout the peninsula as a whole, and we certainly hope you have a wonderful retirement, but we will miss you in your role as the military liaison, and congratulations on just the wonderful work that you've done. So this is just a small token of the school division and the school board's appreciation for all of your hard work.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Since Poquoson is my home and I service all the school districts in Hampton Roads, it's certainly been a pleasure working with Poquoson City Schools. There are 4 other members here tonight of my team of the Joint Military Services School Liaison Committee sitting out here that also came because I'm leaving them as well. And as Fort Monroe leaves, there's still an awful lot of military in the family, and we know that Poquoson City Schools have always been very military friendly, so that's real nice, and we appreciate it. And I thank you for all the working partnerships that we've had. Thank you.
We're now going to take a short break. We'll be off the TV for about 5 minutes or so. We'd like the students and people to stay around so that the board can meet you and meet some of the people in the audience. Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready to call the school board back into order, and we'll go with presentations and reports. We have, first one up is Special Education Advisory Committee, Shelley Fieldman.
Good evening. I'm the new chair of the Poquoson Special Education Advisory Committee. I would like to thank the school board for their continued support. Even though this has been a difficult budget year for families, local government, and the federal government, the school board and division are continuing to provide excellent staffing and support programs for students with disabilities. I would also like to thank Mr. Carter for his involvement in SEAC last year. We look forward to working with him again this year and welcome any suggestions that you have for improving our program. The mission of SEAC is to encourage family involvement and to provide support, ongoing discussion about educational issues, sharing information, and planning joint training events. This past year, we have continued our efforts to promote involvement and attendance at SEAC meetings and have had 9 to 13 participants at each meeting, which is an increase over the previous year. It has been a pleasure to see parents getting involved with the community, not just when there's an issue to solve, but to meet other parents and learn about special education. I would also like to thank Mrs. Pam Upchurch for her service as the staff representative for Poquoson City Schools and for her agreeing to serve again in this coming year. The SEAC met 4 times this past year. In October 2010, the topic was Disability History and Awareness Month. At the December 2010 meeting, Randy Jennings, the Retail Operations Manager for Goodwill, gave a presentation on job training for individuals with disabilities. In February 2011, Dr. Kenneth Westcott explained how learning-related vision problems are diagnosed and treated. It was very useful for teachers and paraprofessionals to learn how to recognize the signs of learning delays caused by vision problems. At the final 2010-2011 school year meeting in April, Matt Luther, counselor with the Department of Rehabilitative Services, presented a review of post-secondary services to students with disabilities, and Mrs. Feltman presented the PCPS annual plan. In our efforts to increase awareness, all SEAC meetings were included in the monthly school bulletins, the resource news mailer, and the school division's website. Thanks to Mrs. Feldman's efforts, SEAC meeting information was also communicated directly to the staff and sent home to students with IEPs. We will meet this year on the following dates: October 13th, December 8th, February 9th, and April 12th. All meetings will be held at the Poquoson Elementary School in room C200 and will start at 4:30 p.m. I hope you would join us for our meeting on October 13th and share with us any ideas or suggestions that you might have for upcoming topics. It is our hope that through the support of parents and teachers, we will make Poquoson City Schools an even better place for students with special needs to learn and to grow. I look forward to serving as the chair for SEAC this year, and we thank you again for your support, and also thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and speak to you this evening.
Thanks, Shelley. Next item we have is financial update with Mr. Bowen.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, school board members, and Dr. Parrish. In the finance update this evening, what I'd like to do is focus on the re-benchmarking process. I touched base a little bit at the August board meeting about re-benchmarking. However, since that time, the Department of Education has released some preliminary data, which I'd like to share with you, and its potential impact on Poquoson City Public Schools. The re-benchmarking process is a responsibility of the Virginia Department of Education, and it involves updating the state costs for direct aid for school divisions for the next biennium, recognizing the changes in costs over the previous biennium. These projections are based on methodologies and formulas and other changes that are adopted or approved by the General Assembly and the governor. And this process occurs every 2 years in conjunction with the biennium budget process. Now, there are 4 major categories of funding from the state. The first being the standards of quality. This is our largest sources of fund, represents about 90% of our state aid, or about $9.3 million. This includes funding for all of our instructional, special ed, remedial programs to include salaries and benefits for those staff members. The second is the incentive fund. This is our technology grant. It represents about $154,000 in our budget. The state, what they'll often do when they give us one-time monies, they will include the one-time monies in the incentive fund. I didn't include the one-time monies that we have currently in our budget because that's not part of the re-benchmarking process. But just as a reminder, we have in our budget this year $200,000 of one-time money. And at the end of this fiscal year, those monies will be gone. Like I said, the state gives us those funds, but they are not part of the re-benchmarking process. The categorical fund includes funding for our homebound and school lunch programs. This represents about $15,000 of our state aid. And lastly, there's the lottery fund, which includes funding for our regional special ed and remedial programs. This total funding for lottery is about $400,000 in state aid. Now, within these 4 categories, there are 30 subcategories. And each of the subcategories is updated based on key data elements that the state uses. And these key data elements, these are the major data elements that the state uses. Now, there's others, but these are really the major ones. And I'm not going to read all these to you, but what I would like to point out here is excluding the inflation factor and the textbook cost, all of these data elements are provided, this data for these items are provided by staff members here at the school division. So there are members within the student services that provide special education, child count. There's finance staff that provide the annual school report, data on the annual school report, which is a very comprehensive report that my staff prepares. And then there's transportation report that Mr. Pappas and his staff prepares. Now, when the Department of Education begins this process of re-benchmarking, they start with a baseline. And the baseline that they're using is the FY12 budget, our current budget. Now, what I want to point out here is that since 2009, Poquoson City Public Schools has seen a $3 million reduction in its state aid. So this is the lowest baseline that we've seen since 2004, which is very significant. So we're starting at the lowest point since 2004 when they go in to recalculate and update these costs. In addition to the baseline and the changes in the baseline, it's excluding the stimulus funds. Now, what I want to point out here about the stimulus funds is that there were several different pots of stimulus money. One in particular was the stimulus funds for our basic aid. Back in 2009, when school divisions were given their pot of stimulus funds, the state held back about 50%, and school divisions were expecting that money to come in 2010. But what they ended up doing was they gave us the money, but they gave it to us in the form of basic aid. They cut general funds and then supplanted those general funds with basic aid, with stimulus funds. And what we're seeing now is that those stimulus funds are not being included in this baseline. So they are, again, part of what was our budget cut moving from 2011 to 2012. Now, these are not the final numbers that the Department of Education has released are not final numbers, but what we've seen is we've seen a slight increase in the state costs for education over the next biennium. However, when we look at those numbers are not going to have a significant impact on our budget for the next biennium. So what's going to happen from here is that the Department of Education has shared this information with their board, the Board of Education. This information now goes to the governor, where they're awaiting 2 additional data elements to finalize those numbers. One being the local composite index, which we also use as an indicator for how our budget's going to be. And then the second is the revenue projections that will come out with the governor's budget in December. So at our next meeting, at the November meeting, we will present to you the changes in the local composite index and share with you what impact that might have on our budget. But with the revenue projections not scheduled to come out until the governor's budget, we won't know the final data until the governor's budget is released. So that's my finance update for this evening.
If I could just add to this, what this means for us in past years when we've seen rebenchmarking, when it's not, the baseline hasn't been as low as it has, there's been hope that we'll see some real additional funding coming into education. But what we know now, and we knew this was going to happen, it's what I've talked to you all about for the past 6 months, is that because it's being calculated off of all of the cuts that we've had, the increase is going to be so insignificant that if additional cuts come, depending what happens with the composite index, this isn't going to help us solve our problem when we're looking at budget cuts moving into fiscal year 13. And so we wanted to get this information to you now. It's what we've talked about for several months coming to fruition is clearly coming to fruition with rebenchmarking. So again, we want to prepare the community again that what we've been talking about, having a very challenging budget year for fiscal year 13, appears to begin to be occurring for our school division and school divisions across the state.
Any questions? Thank you. Good report. Next item we have is the operations update with Mr. Pappas.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, School Board, Dr. Parrish. This is our first board meeting since Hurricane Irene made her presence known, and I'm pleased to report that, as we all know, her punch was not that which we expected. But notwithstanding that, all the areas of operations, food service, custodial services, maintenance, and transportation were engaged both before and after the event pursuant to our written severe weather plans. This year, as we always do, we reevaluate and we added something. Transportation was engaged a little differently than normal, and I'm pleased to apprise you of the fact that we assisted in transporting Poquoson citizens, and we're folding that into our revised plan. I want to thank those drivers who responded to the call to duty, and we're very grateful for them. For those people who fall within the grace period for free and reduced lunch each year, there's a 30 operating day grace period. I'm just reaching out to people on the other side of the camera to let them know that we're rapidly approaching the deadline for which their applications have to be submitted. And then lastly, I'm pleased to share that despite the added challenges that Hurricane Isabel tried to hurl our way, the custodial staff and the maintenance staff did a superb job of responding to principals' needs, the building's needs, the property's needs, so that the buildings would be in fine shape for the return of faculty and students. That's my report.
Any questions or discussions? Good report. Thank you, Mr. Pappas. Next, we have an instructional update with Dr. Rivia.
And while Dr. Rivia makes her way to the podium, I have to say that she is about to share some very exciting news with all of us, and this actually comes to a surprise to the majority of people in this room and up here as well. We thought since it was such good news, we would, and we recently received it, that we would provide that information to you tonight, and it ties to something that Dr. Rivia has been working on, and I want to, before she announces it, take this opportunity to once again thank our military liaisons, because a couple of them were instrumental in getting us some information and assisting us in achieving what we're very excited about. So with that said, and the drum roll over, I will now turn it over to Dr. Rivia.
Thank you, Dr. Parrish. Thank you, Chairman Smith. Tonight, I will be bringing some additional data, as I had promised, in August, but some very special information. We have worked very closely with our military liaison officers, and that's been noted already this evening, but last winter, Mr. French sent an email to our superintendent that there was the possibility for some grant funding that we might apply for. So we took advantage of that. And over the course of the next several months, and with additional input from Ms. Leverett in the audience this evening, I am proud to announce that we, as a school division, have received a DODEA, which is a Department of Defense Education Activity Grant, in the amount of $324,000. It is... Dr. Parrish can certainly attest to the fact that I was like a kid in the candy shop when we got this announcement on late Friday afternoon. It was truly very exciting because we know how challenging our economic times are, and yet we know how important literacy is for the children of our community. So our actual grant program is in support of our K-5 reading literacy program that we have begun working on at both the primary school and the elementary school. So I know that Ms. Butler and Mrs. Wood are very excited to hear this news tonight. This will help us in developing our reading program, and particularly in training and doing a lot of professional development with our teachers and the acquisition of additional instructional materials and textbooks, additional digital devices for our students to use, and it will also include some monies for program evaluation, because as we all know, it's very important that when you move into a new initiative that you benchmark along the way, and we will be doing that over the next 3 years. This is a 3-year federal grant, and I am just absolutely thrilled to be able to work with our primary school and elementary school teachers. I'm hoping if they're out in TV land listening that they are cheering and are very excited, because they've known that we were going to be moving forward and working on this initiative, but to now be able to say we have sufficient funding to really do this and do this well, and it gives us some comfort room in order to be able to address a myriad of needs that we might have had to done in a more piecemeal fashion. So this is truly exciting news, and I want to thank our military liaison officers, and I will be working closely with the DODEA staff out of Washington, D.C. as we proceed through the next 3 years and working to bring in trainers and support and materials to our school division. So hopefully that's good news to our school board as well as to our community at large. So moving on to what you know is oftentimes one of my favorite topics, and actually this is some of the information. You need to know that in order for us to receive the grant, we had to provide a lot of data about our school division. So I think you will be very heartened to know that the work that we do in digging and pulling data together and analyzing it has been very fruitful in bringing that grant award to us. But tonight we want to now focus a little bit on our upper secondary school data, and that is our AP data as well as our SAT data. And the slide that you see in front of you is just kind of an overview. We'll be giving you some additional information in the work session, but it is important to note that last year we had students at our high school test in 21 AP courses. And that's a large number of AP courses. It really speaks to the depth and the breadth and the quality of the instruction that our students have access to. It's important also to note that we had 321 AP tests taken, and that's an increase from the year before. One of the things that as a board you've really set high standards and expectations for us to provide strong instructional programs, but also to really encourage and motivate students to achieve at the highest level. So I was really pleased to see that we had even more tests taken this past year than we had in the previous year. Something that I think we are extremely proud of is that of all of the AP tests that were taken by the students in our school division, at least 83.8% of our students who took an AP test scored at least a 3 or better on one of those tests. So you can score anywhere between a 1 and a 5. So 83.8% of our students who elected to take at least one test got at least a 3 or higher score. And that is very significant because the national average is about 62%. So that is huge. I think it really speaks volumes to the work that our students are doing to prepare, but also it speaks volumes about the work that our teachers are doing to provide strong instruction for our students. And some of these students were taught, some of these courses were taught here at the high school, but it's also important to note that we do have children who take advantage of programs at the New Horizons Regional Education Center, as well as Virtual Virginia, which has really helped to augment and provide additional opportunities for a number of our high school students. I'd also like to provide you with some SAT data. We have students, and this data is reported from the College Board in a cohort fashion. The data that you see is about the class of 2011. So some of the class of 2011 took their test in their junior year, some took it in their senior year, but this is a composite profile of the SAT performance of our senior class. So you can see that I've given you the three areas, the reading, mathematics and writing. I've shown you not only our class of 11 average, but also the state and the national averages. And I think you can see that our students are performing very well. I would like to particularly note that we saw an increase of the number of our students in our class of 2011 who were taking the SAT. The SAT is a test that is frequently used as our students move on to college or two-year programs or different kinds of apprenticeships. So we were really pleased to see that we had even more of our seniors than in the past who were actually taking this test, because it's a real handy piece of information to put on their resume, kind of regardless of where they're going. And we do know that we have over 80% of our students who go on to 2- and 4-year universities. So it's important to note that they are preparing themselves by taking these important tests, and they are obviously performing well. And as always, this is a really strong score, but we will encourage our teachers to continue to challenge our students, and that we will continue to challenge our students to do their very best, and hopefully that we'll be able to come back next year with an even higher score. And that's my report.
Any questions?
I have one question. The AP courses, if you score 3 or higher, is that what generally transfers to most of the colleges, a 3 or a higher score?
Yes, sir, and that's reported out by the College Board. It's certainly not a guarantee, but most colleges or universities will either provide credit or advanced standing in a course, so they might be able to jump over some of their freshman courses and be placed in higher courses.
Anything else?
Who put the grant together? Who wrote up the grant?
Dr. Revia did.
That is no small chore. So thank you very much. I know that takes a great deal of work, and I appreciate those efforts that you put forth. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I'm not jumping around like I was on Friday, but I was truly, Dr. Parrish can attest, I was a very happy camper on behalf of our community, because it's going to do a lot for us.
I'll bet you were.
And you made all of us very happy, too.
Yes. Good work. Thank you
Good
very
report.
much.
On behalf of the board, I'd like to thank Charlie French and the military liaison for all your help on this and getting this grant for us. Okay, now we'll move into consent agenda. Gary.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, which includes item A, approval of financial reports enclosed, item B, personnel action closed, item C, authorization to accept and expend funds received from Department of Medical Assistance Support Services enclosed, and item D, authorization to accept and expend carryover AARA stimulus funds enclosed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call for a vote, please.
Mr. Inslee?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Diggs?
Aye.
Mr. Melton?
Aye.
Ms. Sidner?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Chairman Smith?
Aye.
The motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Other matters for consideration. Approval of August board minutes, regular and work session enclosed. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the August board minutes, regular and work.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for a vote, please.
Mr. Inslee?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Diggs?
Abstain.
Mr. Melton?
Aye.
Ms. Sidner?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Chairman Smith?
Aye.
The motion passed by a vote of 6 to 1 abstain.
Next item we have is consideration of approval of Proclamation for Virginia Disability History and Awareness Month, October, enclosed. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move that we approve the proclamation for Virginia Disability History and Awareness Month for October.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call for a vote, please.
Mr. Inslee?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Diggs?
Aye.
Mr. Melton?
Aye.
Ms. Sidner?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Chairman Smith? The motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Dr. Parrish.
Yes, the next item ties to the authorization to accept and expend an appropriation from the City of Poquoson for compensation for Poquoson City Public School employees. At the August 22nd meeting, our City Council approved a transfer of $146,000 to the school division through the school board. Please note that they used the same amount of money to provide additional compensation in the form of a bonus for their employees for this year, and then they will move that forward next year into a raise. What I am recommending to you tonight is that we use that $146,000 to provide a one-time bonus to all of our employees to be paid on December 1st of this school year. It will result in the bonus being equivalent to a 1.3% of their base salary. Please note that with the $146,000, it does mean that the amount that our employees are receiving is different from the amount that the city employees are receiving because they do have far fewer employees than we have. So again, my recommendation is for a one-time bonus that will be paid December 1, and it does equate to 1.3% of the base salary for our employees. And certainly as we move through budget for fiscal year 13, City Council has indicated that there would be some possible support for moving that dollar amount forward into the next budget year, but right now it's just for this budget year transferred in as a one-time, so that's why we're recommending a bonus this year. So with that, I recommend approval of the recommendation as made this evening.
We have a motion.
A motion to accept the recommendation from Dr. Parrish for the one-time bonus.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
On the discussion, I'd like to start the discussion. This, as most of you or all of you saw in the paper a week or so ago, there was an article on this. And for clarification as to what really went on, the school board certainly appreciates the willingness of the City Council to provide the additional funds that we were able to use for compensation for our employees this year, especially during these very challenging physical times. I do want to ensure that our employees understand that the board did formally and informally request that if City Council decided to provide additional compensation during the school year, that we be given enough funding to ensure that our employees receive the same level of compensation as the city employees. And I think in the paper it's a little misleading. Unfortunately, the $146,000 is only half of what was needed to mirror the city employees' bonus. In other words, we received $146,000. School employees, the city employees had $146,000. We have twice the number of employees. I know I speak for the board when I say that we do appreciate all of our employees and will continue to work hard to address compensation issues in the future, and we will. This is not a dead issue. It's come up and people have asked questions, and quite frankly, I've told them they need to call the city manager or the mayor, that we gave our opinion of what we wanted, and it came out a little bit different than we had hoped for. Now I'll open it up to the board for discussion.
Well, I wholeheartily agree. We have some hardworking professional educators here, and they're deserving of more compensation than we're able to do at this time. So I'm in total agreement.
I have a question. Will this be a separate check to the employees, or will this be rolled into their December paycheck, or how will we administer this?
No, this will be a separate check, so it'll be separated from their paycheck, and we'll distribute that on December 1st.
The good part about that is it comes out for the holidays. Anybody have anything else? Call for a vote, please.
Mr. Inslee?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Diggs?
Aye.
Mr. Melton?
Aye.
Ms. Sidner?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Chairman Smith?
Aye.
The motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Next item on the agenda is public comment.
There was none.
We have none? Then we'll go down to communications and other matters. Dr. Parrish.
Yes, first I want to officially welcome Kelly to the board, and she's done a great job so far, and we look forward to working with her through the rest of the school year. I again want to take the opportunity to thank our military liaisons who are here this evening. I can't thank you enough for the support you provide, and certainly the assistance in gaining this grant is going to make a difference for our children. Not only K-5, but eventually they become 6 through 12, so it's going to make a difference for all of our kids, and we thank you for that. School is back in full swing, and we're excited to have everybody back. Just a reminder that we have many back-to-school nights, both the remainder of this week and into next week. So I encourage you, parents and community members, if you want to come back to school, feel free to check our new website if you haven't seen that yet. And we do have all of those dates listed on our newly launched website. We will continue to provide budget updates, as we mentioned earlier. I can't stress enough the concern that we do have as we move to fiscal year 13 and 14. So we'll continue to keep you abreast of the situation as well as the community. And I have to say, despite the challenges that we face, and I know we're going to continue to face when we see the student achievement data that we saw tonight and the success we have in getting this new grant, I think it just continues to show that all of our staff just work so hard to continue the tradition of excellence that is Poquoson City Public Schools. And I thank everybody for that, and we're excited about the 11-12 school year.
Okay. At our high school, for Poquoson High School, all of our athletic activities are up and running. Our golf team recently moved into district competition this week, and our sailing club has recently performed very well in the 2 regattas that they've had. Our bullying prevention week was last week. The Bullseye Committee had many activities to kick off the new school year. We held class meetings in our 4th hour classes, where they elected class representatives to go to the meetings to represent for their classes. They had a big banner out in one of the hallways for us to sign for us to pledge that we wouldn't bully. I thought it was really cool because they did it in chalk, so kids could just go up and grab a piece of chalk and just write on it. And on Thursday and Friday at lunch, they played music for us, and at first we walked in and we were like, what is this music that's playing? And we finally, we realized at the meeting that it was for the dance and activity night on Saturday, and a couple of my friends went, and they said they had a lot of fun, that it was a real big hit, and they enjoyed it, and they'd go back again if they had one next year. For the high school, back to school night is September 26th. From 6 to 7, parents of seniors will meet with the guidance counselors to discuss their stuff for their seniors. And then from 7 to 9 is the normal back to school night for the rest of the parents. Middle school students began their annual magazine fundraiser this past Monday, so if you want to resubscribe to your favorite magazines, contact one of your middle schoolers. This Friday they plan to have a back to school dance at 6:30, and their back to school night is September 21st at 7 p.m. starting in the gym. For our elementary schoolers, back to school night is September 28th from 6 to 8, and they will be having a readathon fundraiser starting in October. And for Poquoson Primary School, their back to school night is September 22nd. And that is all I have.
Corbin.
I have nothing, believe it or not.
I would like to thank all the people that have been very busy, obviously. Dr. Revia with the grant, and Charlie French, and Mr. Bombaugh, who did a superb job, I thought, directing his chorus. I wanted to share that I had the opportunity to attend the New Horizons meeting because I'm on that board now. And it was last month, August the 23rd, and basically it was an organization meeting. So the offices were filled, and Paige Mentor will continue to be the chairman. And they also talked about their school improvement plan and their goals. So very similar to what we do here on the school board each year. So that's it.
I'd like to take a moment to thank Charlie for your consistency and all the last 10 years that you've been supporting children all across the peninsula, but particularly here at Poquoson. We really appreciate your efforts, and you've really made a big impact on your local community. Really thank you very much for your service. And I guess to Dr. Parrish, to you and your staff, the start of another great year. The summertime, we think of it as a downtime. I know that's when the school board and the staff are very, very busy. And you can see the fruits of that when school starts up so smoothly. And it's nice to see some rewards come out of the hard work. Dr. Revia, thank you very much for your effort to pursue those funds. That's all I have.
Welcome back to all of our hardworking teachers and staff. I hope you have a good school year. Next week, I'm off to Ogden Weber Technical College in Utah, and I'll be reviewing all the technical apprenticeships in sheet metal and electrical for the entire state, apparently. And I'll be reviewing some machinist programs, and then I get to spend a whole day looking at all their learning resources on that campus. And what is of particular interest to me is they actually have 5-year apprentice programs out there where you actually start in your senior year of high school. So I'm going to be looking hard at that and see if there's any recommendations we can bring back to Virginia from there. And before we meet again, I'll be off to the CTE statewide meeting in Fredericksburg for that advisory committee in early October. That's it. I'll be busy.
I'd like to thank Mr. B and his course groups. They were incredible, very nice. And I would also like to thank all the AP teachers at the high school, because having one college student, it's a great way to get credits out of the way. It's a great money saver, and it's a great way for them to minor or double major. So the AP program at the high school is wonderful, and I just would like to thank Mr. Wright and all the teachers for their good work with that.
Very true.
Welcome, Kelly. You did a great job tonight. I appreciate your work. The student data achievement data is phenomenal, and that's really a threefold thing. It's the teachers who dedicate themselves to educating the kids, who go to work every day prepared and do their best. The students who absorb that information and study at night and work hard to achieve. And I'm a big one on the parents. The parents have to be there, and this shows it. Parents in the community value education, and I appreciate that. Thank you also, Charlie, for all your work and for the tip for the grant. That was awesome. I'm very excited about that. Oh, and Ms. Feltman, last year at one of the SEAC meetings I attended, and it was mentioned tonight, there was a presentation we heard last year about how vision could delay learning, and it's not necessarily not being able to see well to form your words, but I actually had a student come to me this year with this particular issue, and had I not attended that meeting, I would have been clueless what the person was talking about. So I actually had a little bit of background knowledge, so I appreciate that, and I look forward to working with SEAC again this year.
Kelly, you did well.
Thank you.
You'd never know it was your first night. You stepped in like you've been here for months. Charlie, thanks you and your associates for all your help. I'd just like to know in the future, are we going to get more tips? I don't want to let this die. The website is really nice. I like that. The instructions on it were absolutely perfect, Pat.
Thank you.
Walking through that was not a problem. I think the choir tonight was excellent. Matter of fact, I mentioned to Dr. Parrish, I wonder if they sell any of those. They are really wonderful, and I think they could use that as a fundraiser, selling some of that. Back to school. I know we're in the first month, and with all the teachers, kids and everything, and you get over a couple of thousand students, you're going to always have something jump up. Every year something's going to jump. It's unavoidable. What I look at is the percentage, and I go back and say, we survived the first week without any big hang-ups or anything else, and I look at the Dr. Parrish, her staff, the staff at each of the schools and the teachers, and say you do a fantastic job. It's just like a well-oiled machine, because percentage-wise, any issues that do come up are minor compared to the number that could come up statistically from something like that. So you do a wonderful job, and we're glad to have all of you here. That's all I have. If no one has anything else, then we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.